Autumn Nations Cup. It's a new but only once-off competition which is going to get started in mid-November. It's essentially your Six Nations teams with the addition of Fiji and Georgia. It was initially going to have Japan, but they pulled out of all rugby for this COVID 2020 year. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting competition. We still have to finish off a couple of rounds, like a round and a half of the Six Nations 2020 before this competition gets underway, but a lot of the squads have already been announced. Let's have a look at the bookies odds to see if we can get a prediction on where these teams are favoured to finish. These are the two groups that are going to be in the Autumn Nations Cup. So you've got England, Ireland, Wales, and just looking at that, you have to say poor Georgia. On this side you got France, Scotland, Fiji, and Italy. The numbers next to the teams is their world ranking. So it does seem, I don't know, I would have thought you're going to split it. This team, then that team. 7 and 6 should be on the same side. I don't know, it doesn't seem very balanced. Like, should be top seeds. Or England and Ireland, based on those rankings, should be the top seeds. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, bookies odds are, of course, never a true prediction. It's just kind of, I mean, they do their own maths and they favor odds to make sure they're going to make as much money from us punters as possible. But I think generally they give a pretty decent indication. So yeah, let's have a look and see who has the best chance to win and the worst chance. Bringing up the rear with 0.2% chance to win the Six Nations, it's Georgia. So if you want that, if you're a punter, they're paying $501, pounds, whatever it is. They're paying $501 if you want to go decimal odds in dollar currency to win the Autumn Nations Cup. Convert that into a percentage, it's a 0.2% chance of winning the comp. A late edition, and I think some other European rugby has recently been cancelled, so they may go into this one a bit underdone. But that's the Georgians there. It's just going to be good, I think, for all the neutrals to see them playing rugby because everyone wants the Georgians to get more game time, essentially. They've got a whole bunch of their forwards that are professional, and a lot of the backs, as someone mentioned to me on Twitter the other day, a lot of the backs are still kind of amateurs or playing locally. So it's only a good thing if these guys get more exposure. But that looks like a pretty bloody tough group, you would have to say. Next is Italy. Italy, who are technically ranked below Georgia on the world rankings, which is a flawed system, but that is what it is. They're given a doubled chance compared to Georgia of winning the competition, but still only 0.4%, $251 to win the Autumn Nations Cup. Likewise, not given that much of a chance. It's kind of a pity Italy and Georgia aren't in the same group because it's always a fascinating one to see those two teams play off against each other. Italy's record recent times, I think, against Georgia is pretty good, despite some people calling for Georgia to replace Italy in the Six Nations, which is, I think, not likely to happen anytime soon. But yeah, those are your two teams bringing up the rear. Next is Fiji, and Fiji actually jumps up a fair bit higher than everybody else. They've at least got a whole number with a 5.2% chance of winning it. That's $17 they are paying. We had a look at their squad recently in another video. There's certainly some big names missing from their Fiji squad, but as some people mentioned, maybe going for a slightly more youthful team, as a lot of those kind of big name players are late 20s, early 30s, so maybe it is a good time, especially if you're looking at building to the next World Cup, of bringing in some of the younger talent now and giving them a crack. Likewise, I think with Georgia, neutrals generally like to support Fiji. It's just a thing. Some of the best forwards and some of the best backs in the world. And Fiji's got some bloody good forwards as well. The next team would be two teams, actually. It is both Scotland with 8.8% and Wales with 8.8%. This is based on bookies odds. Both these teams are paying $10 to win the Autumn Nations Cup. Interesting one, I guess. Given that, I mean, traditionally, if you're looking at recent Six Nations history, Wales certainly has a better record than Scotland. But maybe the Wayne Pivac factor campaign before lockdown not going all that swimmingly is a factor in these betting odds. I don't know, man. Countries with lower populations tend to do worse off in betting odds because there's more punters putting money on their own team, so they get more favourable odds. Maybe a la England, maybe France, I don't know. This was an English bookmaker that I was looking at, so consider that into your thoughts as well. But yeah, both of them 8.8%. Scotland team, as I said in their squad, kind of look a squad that looks pretty bloody good on paper. So we'll see if they can find some consistency in their performances in the Autumn Nations Cup. We'll see. Decent crack in that pool, you'd have to say. Next, it's France with 17.5%. $5 they are paying to get the job done. France, certainly a side chock full of talent, and prior to their loss against Scotland in the Six Nations, they were looking like world beaters. They maybe slipped up a little bit, but it is a young side, so come a year or two from now, they'll probably be a bit of a different beast. But in that's probably fair. They're certainly the favourite in that pool, or that group, and that is reflected in those odds, I would say. Next, it's Ireland. Ireland with 19.4%. They're paying $4.50. They've still got one of the opening Six Nations games to warm up with, so we will see if that does them any favours. I think they're playing Italy this weekend, which is something to get excited about in terms of international rugby being back. So far, it's only been New Zealand and Australia getting things underway in terms of Tier 1 nations. So, yeah, let's get these guys back into it. Ireland, again, I guess kind of like Wales, are in that new coach boat where there's still that seed of doubt amongst them, where they were maybe a little bit. I saw Johnny Sexton's interview about the squad recently, and kind of he even mentioned, not quite getting it right all the time prior to lockdown. So, yeah, that is going to be a factor. Lastly, it's England. What is the remaining number? It's 39.8%. So England paying $2.20 to win the Autumn Nations Cup. Kind of no surprise, I guess, given that they had, they still have a very good chance of winning the Six Nations 2020. They have the same coach. They have the highest world ranking, and they made a World Cup final. So they've got the most punters in their country, I would say, by population. Probably, that's a factor. But yeah, take all these things into consideration. What do you guys reckon? Do you think England are out and out favourites? Almost double is that double? The next best team. Did I ever miss out a decimal? 39.8. If you're wondering why that doesn't equal 100. 39.8%. So there you go. Pretty much double anybody else in terms of their odds to win the Autumn Nations Cup. Can you see any surprises? France, I don't think it would be a surprise if they won it. Likewise, Ireland or Wales, based off recent Six Nations history. All these sides have won it in recent years. But Fiji, Italy, Georgia, or Scotland may be something of an upset. I'm still not giving up on Scotland as a team, which is going to surprise. But as some Scottish fans have told me in the comments, high expectations is one of the issues with being a Scotland fan, is that you only end up getting disappointed. But we will see. You guys let me know your thoughts on these odds. Remember, they are just bookmakers' odds, but converted into maybe a probability. So you guys let me know your thoughts on these. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.